2434 Alpha and 2433 Alpha. Can I get you to sys 2401 Alpha, Roger?
Hello, my name is Holly Barkwell, and I'm the President and CEO of BH Group, Inc. I'm also the NENA Canadian Region Director, and we're here today to discuss the concepts and the opportunities surrounding Next Generation 911. With me today is Eric Parry of NGA 911. He is the NENA Advisory Board Chair. He's been in that position for 20 plus years, and he also participates in several industry working groups, including Emergency Services Working Group in Canada. So thank you, Eric, for joining us today, and welcome.
Thank you.
So with all of the information and misinformation out there today regarding Next Generation, what exactly does Next Generation mean to you and to your organization?
Well, Next Generation means a bunch of things. I think in the today's context of what Next Generation 911 is, it's just barely out of the starting gate. If you want to look at kind of from a very high level at what Next Generation 911 is. The first thing it is are internet protocol networks that deliver calls. So a lot of agencies that claim to be NG ready or claim to be, have stood up an EZNet that's Next Generation 911. A lot of times it's a methodology for delivering IP call delivery. So calls are, are not delivered on the traditional means, but they're like camera trunks, but they're delivered through an internet, like an EZNet, a network. So if you look at that, certainly, in my opinion, would be the first stages of implementing Next Generation 911. But there's a whole other subset of things that have yet to be developed, have yet to be discovered. And that's what we refer to as core services. The telcos, as far as I know, are looking for core services, somebody that can come up with the capabilities that would, we would probably have servers sitting in a data center somewhere where, the core services, the functional elements that do all these different things that are part of Next Generation 911, such as CAD, such as radio perhaps, or any of the other things, texting, video, multimedia, all those things are going to be part of what we refer to as functional elements. But until we get those things developed and until somebody comes along with core services, then we're going to be doing IP call delivery and perhaps dynamic call routing to a degree. But so we've got some distance to go. I know that NENA has just come out with the third, I think the third iteration of the I3 standard. I think we talked about that. And so it's, and the thing I like about that is that we do have involvement from people like Guy Caron, who is Canadian and is heavily involved in these standards, as I am. I'm involved in PSAP, or public education, that is specific to Next Generation 911, so that we can have education programs that are designed to bring the telecommunicators up to speed as to what Next Generation is. So we just are starting to do that now. So there's a big component of Next Generation 911 that involves our own internal public education, if you like. We need to keep doing what we can to better educate people so that they know exactly what they have, where they need to go, and what the whole thing is going to end up looking like. I think, I know that in Canada, the EZNet has basically been stood up, and there's IP connectivity to PSAPs. And so that's way ahead of where the United States is, for example. The EZNets in America tend to be regional. Eventually, the vision would be to make them statewide and then interconnect to other states. There's a long way to go to do that. So, but having said that, it's kind of nice that it's going to happen in Canada, because we will be able to test some of these things and do these things and make it easier, make life easier for the others that follow, particularly here south of the border.
Very good point. In your opinion, what's the biggest challenge that you and your clients face regarding operational readiness for next generation 911 and the services?
I would say next generation core services, or what's referred to as NGCS. We have to take our EZNets as they are, and we have to create an infrastructure that can allow for things like use case testing. So to run calls through the system, to test functional elements, to come up with a list of use cases, and that's a term that we loosely use to define all the different permutations and combinations of what we could do on a next generation 911 EZNet.
What would be the most important piece of advice you would offer to agencies as they prepare for next-gen operational readiness?
The smarter you are about what you need to do, the smoother it's going to go for you. So the materials have been like our public education, internal 911 type public education materials are being developed. Some of them are already developed. The NENA website, for example, has a resource page for texting. It has everything you need to know about texting that describes the interim solution for texting to 911. Canada, it's called something different. It's called Texting with 911. So that would be the first thing, is kind of get your arms around what next generation 911 is capable of doing now, and what it hopefully will be capable of doing down the road. And of course, the other things such as funding are all kind of gray areas right now. The funding model needs to be changed so that next generation 911 doesn't drive a spike through your heart kind of thing. You can save money. There's other things that you need to do if your CPE or the equipment that the 911 call arrives on, if that's not up to date or current or IP capable, then that's another area where you would have to spend some money to upgrade. And so what I typically say is that you're going to be saving money over here, but you might have to spend money over there. You might have to get a new logging recorder or upgrade it. So it's it's almost a wash depending on the size of the PSAP and where they are and the cost of network and all that kind of thing. So I think it has to start with the PSAPs. There's several NENA committees that are working on the standards. I co-chair an NGRFP committee, and it's been painful. It's been like over 3 years that we've been at this, and we're finding now we're getting really close to getting this RFP standard out for consumption. But what we're realizing now is the goalposts have shifted over a bit, because in the past 3 years, there's a bunch of things that are germane to next generation 911 that have changed. So now we got to kind of backtrack and go through the standard again and make sure that we're not saying apples when we mean oranges kind of thing. So, and that's the other. Well, it's not a problem, but that's the other fact when it comes to next generation 911, is that it's changing. We're making progress. We're coming out with these standards, and it's an evolving thing. So yeah, there's lots to do. But at the end of the day, I'm a believer. I think next generation is going to be the best thing that has ever happened to us. It's going to get everybody up to speed. It might be unfortunate that some PSAPs, the smaller ones, that they can't come up to the standard, or they don't have the technology, or they don't have the funding. You're probably going to see kind of not a backlash, but as a natural part of next generation 911, you're probably going to see more PSAP consolidation occurring, because when you get into the economies of scale, it just doesn't you can't support a business case that funds little PSAPs, that small one position PSAPs, and they're all over the place. The new standard says no, if you're doing certain things, you have to have minimum 2 people on. Right. Well, then you're going to go from an establishment of 5 people to 10 people or more. They won't be able to afford it. So, and not to mention the fact that in our hosted environment, and hosted environment means that you don't need to have blinky lights in your back room that support just you. You can have equipment in a data center and be able to host things like CPE, the 911 call answer positions. You can host things like computer-aided dispatch. You can host logging recorder stuff. You can host a bunch of things that when you look at the economies of scale, it means that you don't have to have, a whole complete setup that is just running one PSAP with all the stuff in the back room. It doesn't make any sense anymore, both operationally or economically. When you look at the way we have traditionally done things and what Next Generation 911 allows us to do, it's a whole different ballgame. And I'll use another example. You probably recall the Vegas shootings last October.
Yes.
So what happened there is that the Clark County PSAP, or what they call Metro, just got bombarded with calls. Everybody on the planet was calling them, either at the scene or wanting to know what was going on and blah, blah. Anyway, jammed them up so bad that the legitimate 911 calls that would normally come in couldn't make it. And so there were situations where people needed like medical help or whatever, and they simply couldn't get through. So in a Next Generation 911 environment, you can actually partition off a geographic area. So for example, in Vegas, in a Next Generation 911 environment, you could do a polygon around where the event is happening and direct any call that's coming from within that polygon to go somewhere else or to go to a specific place, like a command center or whatever. And so then what that gives you the capability to still remain operationally active for your regular calls, but being able to effectively deal with the when all hell is breaking loose in a particular areas. That's some of the things that Next Generation will be able to do. We've got some distance to go, but we're a lot closer now than we were 4 or 5 years ago to having things like that set up and available to us.
Well, it's actually a very poignant example of situations that continue to arise, and the current systems and platforms simply can't handle the call volumes or the needs in the field to handle that. So thank you for that input. Before we go, are there any other words or thoughts you'd like to offer?
Well, philosophically, I've been at this long. Yeah. This is my 48th year in public safety. I started out as a radio tech with the RC in Canada. And the changes I've seen, having been involved in, police communications in the 70s, to 911 implementations in the 90s, to where we are today, it's just unbelievable how things have changed. And we actually are getting better at what we do. We've always been playing catch up, if you ask me. It's what we do. We don't do anything until it's a crisis, and then we try to catch up. I think we're completely on the right track. I know we're a whole lot smarter as a profession than we were, and it's a good thing because there's a whole bunch of stuff coming that we better get ready for. So that would be my advice to anybody who's involved in a PSAP or a telecommunicator or whoever that is going to be on the receiving end of these things. They got to get themselves prepared, get themselves knowledgeable, because they're just going to have to. The old days of kind of crossing your arms and saying, I don't care what, I got my little PSAP here, I'm in my little county or whatever, and I don't care what's going on anywhere else. Those days are over. Those are
right.
So that's one of the curious things is our DNA, our 911 DNA is based on starting small in a little place or in a city or community and doing things from that perspective. We can't do that anymore. Because now you're looking at ESINets, you're looking at international boundaries. You're looking at calls coming to you from who knows where, and you got to do something with those. Now we have the technology to do stuff with that. So we can't be siloed anymore. We have to get over that. I don't care what's happening in the next, over there. You do need to care, and you do need to work together. And I'm glad to see what you guys are doing with the ESWIG and what some states are doing in the United States are actually getting their 911 stuff together and figuring it out and moving forward, which is very gratifying to see.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us to provide your thoughts and your insights. I'm hoping that many people will find it useful and it will drive some further discussion and we can continue this path.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Oh, enjoy your day.